Right now, we're going to welcome our host of this talk, Hanna Klosinska. Yeah, that's horrible, I know, sorry. Hanna, thank you. Hanna works as a political advisor for Poland at Eurogroup for Animals. She is responsible for supporting and strengthening the political efforts of Eurogroup for Animals members, organizations based in Poland. So this talk will be a panel discussion about the EU animal welfare revision. Please welcome Hanna.
Thank you so much. Okay, is the mic working? Okay, so thank you so much for introducing me, Thomas. The attendees, thank you so much for joining us, for coming here. It is my great pleasure to be here and to host this panel on the exceptionally important topic of EU animal welfare revision. And well, first I would like to warmly welcome our panelists. So first we can maybe start from Olga. So Olga Kikou, European Affairs Manager and Compassion Word Farming EU, who is joining us online. Then, oh, no clapping, okay. Then then we have Thorbjørn Schiønning, Director of Communications and Campaigns at Anima Denmark. Maria Madej, Business Relations Manager at Otwarte Klatki. And last but definitely not least, Maria Madej, Farmed Animals Program Officer at Eurogroup for Animals. So, as we have already grabbed our seats and made ourselves comfortable, we will actually start off with an intro presentation by Maya, as not everyone might feel entirely familiar with the very specific topic of the animal welfare revision. And afterwards, we will have the pleasure of listening to our panelists. And after that, we invite you, the attendees, to a Q&A session. So, Maya, the floor is yours.
And also maybe a very short introduction to Eurogroup for Animals. Our organization it lobbies European institutions, that's what we do, and we represent 91 members across the EU and abroad in our work. Sorry. Okay, so let's start with a mystery. Well, probably most of you guys know that something is going on, but something big is going on, okay? And this is a massive opportunity for billions of animals across the EU, but also abroad, because, in third countries, because the EU trades with third countries, of course. So everything that happens in the EU, especially when it comes to agriculture, it influences third countries as well. So this is really a massive opportunity. This is the first time since 30 years that the EU legislators are considering revising animal welfare legislation. Massive, this is not going to happen within the next decade. So if we don't do something right now, we're losing this huge chance that we have. And these are three magical places where the magic happens. Two of these photos are mine, one is not, guess which one. So this is the best lobbyist I know, that's my dog. She is perfect at getting treats. I am trying to learn how to be as effective as she is. And right behind her is one of the places where the magic happens. So that's the European Commission. And that is the body that is writing the legislation right now. And then we also have the European Parliament and the Council of the EU. So these are three main institutions that we're focusing on right now, and I'm quickly taking the time to explain what they do. So as I said, the European Commission writes the legislation, then it goes to the European Parliament, which votes on the draft proposals, and then the Council of the EU does a very similar thing. So the European Parliament is the voice of the citizens. That's where the MEPs, so members of European Parliament, sit. And then the Council of the EU is the voice of the member states. So these are the ministers of agriculture, for example. And it's super important to lobby all of them, because all of them have a say in what this legislation will look like afterwards. So let's see where we are right now. Right now, the Commission is finishing drafting the proposals. They're probably done already, to be honest. They're consulting right now. And then they will be publishing the proposals. And this will happen in late September, October-ish. We never know. This is the fun in politics. You just never know. But it's probably going to happen late September and October. So what this means is this is a crucial time for us to keep up the pressure on the policymakers. If they don't feel it from us, they're definitely going to feel it from the agriculture lobby. So we must be there to make them feel the fire. What happens after the publication? We will have a key moment. There will be a public consultation open for feedback. So what this means, we're going to be explaining tomorrow together with Jan. But basically, this is a huge opportunity for us as animal advocates to tell the Commission how much we love that they came out with revised animal welfare law, and what we would like to see. And then the other very important point is that after the publication, we will still have to keep up the pressure on the MEPs and ministers of agriculture, because as I said in the previous slide, these guys, these people, have to keep up pressure on this law to be able to get it fully not watered down at the very end. And what the very end means is we're still looking at about 2 years of negotiations. I know this sounds very depressing, but the key of this whole presentation is right now, this is the key moment to get the strongest legislation that we can, the strongest proposal, and then we're going to go into negotiations, okay? But right now we have to focus. So this autumn will be crucial, as I said. Last time when we had the public consultation, so at the very beginning of this whole legislative process, we had 60,000 contributions, and this is massive, okay? This number keeps coming up in the communications from the European Commission, so the people who are writing the legislation, and they keep saying time and again in conversations with us, also publicly, that this is something that is helping them get what we want, okay? This ambition that they saw from us, from animal advocates. And this is really all thanks to you, the organizations that mobilized and got your supporters to answer to the public consultation. The Commission needs a huge political push right now, because as I said, the contra lobby is super active. They're in these rooms all the time. And if we're not pushing that pressure on them outside, obviously we know who's going to win. And it's very easy to get involved in this consultation, even if this is not your area of work. And I know most of you guys don't work on this specifically, and that's totally fine. This is, where our strength comes from. But this is a time when we can all come together, not really using up too much of your capacity, and make things happen. And these guys were not available for a meeting, unfortunately, tomorrow. But we are, so Eurogroup for Animals and Anima, were available. These guys are the European Commission. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about this in more detail, because today I only got 13 minutes and I'm very bad at math, so I was just like, okay, I'm not going to go into detail, But tomorrow we can. We're going to have more time. Meet up in room A, and yeah, let's talk about this in more detail, about mobilizing. And I really do encourage all of you to come. I really hope you will, because as I said, you do not have to be experts to know what to do here. We're going to tell you what to do, okay? It's going to be easy, and it's going to be extremely impactful. So, next steps, apart from the public consultation, very quickly, we're still continuing the pressure, as I said. So, continuing the Vote for Animals campaign, so a campaign to get the right MEPs in the European Parliament. We're going to have European Parliament elections next year in June. And again, this is a very difficult politically time in Europe. I'm sure that you all know that a lot of governments are, a lot of countries are voting in right-wing governments, which is not great for animals. I'm not talking about the other areas of life, but for animals, not great. Yeah, that's why we need to continue the pressure and lobbying future MEPs to get the right people into the European Parliament. And also, on the other side, we're also keeping up pressure on the national ministers, because when the time comes to the council, that's who is going to be speaking on the new legislation. So we need them to be informed, we need them to be prepared, and we're already doing this work right now. So years before the negotiations actually happen. Maybe not years anymore. So yeah, if there's one thing that I'd like you to take from this presentation, it is that it is not done yet. A lot of people are asking me, how sure are you that it's going to happen? I actually got a question today. And I'm kind of sure, but if we don't keep up the pressure, we may lose this huge opportunity, okay? So we really need to make this happen. And I'd like you guys to stay vigilant and active in the coming months. So as I said, let's make this happen for animals, and thank you so much for listening.
Great. Thank you, Maya, for this super informative presentation. And also, like, it's such an inspiring call to action, so I'm very, very happy to kind of share it. And I'm sure that the meetup tomorrow is a wonderful opportunity to get more involved for those of you who want to, and we do encourage all of you, just to be sure. And of course, since the revision is on top of everyone's mind at the moment, I would like to open with a question to all of you. Basically, what have your actions been so far around the revision? Please, whoever would like to start. Maybe there's some volunteers. No, not you.
Not me.
Okay.
So just a small thing, not a small thing, but in Denmark we've worked mostly on the cage ban on cage eggs, and we are successful, but it's like a 12-year phase out. But the good thing is that now, the Danish government will be not against having a cage ban in the EU. We're also doing some things on the culling of male chicks. That's not as advanced yet, so we don't have like very big results to show in that regard, but those are just 2 examples.
Sure, thank you so much.
Yeah, small, but not so small. We do not have, any cages or any like kind of ban for animal welfare in Poland. Well, we do have the foie gras production ban. That's the thing. But other than that, it's not that great for farmed animals in Poland. As Anima International Poland, we have led the cage-free campaign for almost 10 years now in Poland. Together with Polish branch of Albert Schweitzer Foundation, we have secured over 150 cage-free policies from companies such as restaurants, hotels, food manufacturers, retailers, and so on. We have led several pressure campaigns towards companies, both on national level and on international level, together with Open Wing Alliance. So when Compassionate World Farming smartly initiated the Anti-Cage Age initiative, it was a natural move for us to engage in collection of signatures. And then when we saw the initiative becoming a huge success, when we saw it entering the legislative process, we started to think, what more can we do in Poland to help the cage farming ban become actual reality? And after trying to understand EU legislation for a long time, which wasn't an easy task, as many of us can tell you, and as many of you probably know. But thanks to Eurogroup for Animals' help, of course, thanks to really cool analysis of rethink priorities, thanks to talking to Compassionate World Farming, we got to know that a good idea would be to focus on our Minister of Agriculture in Poland, as the Ministers of Agriculture forming the Council of the EU will have an important vote in the final shape of the EU animal welfare revision. So we set up a project team. We started a petition to the Minister of Agriculture together with Compassionate World Farming Poland. And we knew this won't be easy, as Poland, as even though Poles want the ban, they are aware of the cage-free issue. The animal husbandry industry in Poland is very conservative. At the moment, around 70% of hens are kept in cages. Also, the producer associations, they basically praise cages all the time. Also, the government is conservative and unwilling to talk about animal welfare. We knew this will be difficult, but as the stakes were high and are high, we decided to try. So we set a goal of trying to make sure that Polish Ministry of Agriculture at least won't oppose the EU cage farming ban, and in the best case scenario, supports it. And we've set up 3 streams of work. We decided to focus on firstly mobilizing the public to speak out broadly and loudly about their support for the ban. Secondly, we decided to educate politicians because they don't really know much about the EU animal welfare in Poland, and to try to get declarations of support for the ban from them. And the third one, we decided to try to gather as much evidence that phasing out cages is a good decision. So both economically, scientifically, and of course making investigations. And as for now, I can say that some of the primary goals, like not the final goal, but the primary goals we have achieved. And right now we're focusing mostly on the political outreach, but yeah, I think I will speak about it later on, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, that's definitely, we can go over that later. And, you know, this is definitely not easy, but such an important work you're doing in Poland, and it's admirable. Maybe Olga, would you like to take over, since we want to give Maya a bit more time then? Very much.
I'm very happy to be here, and happy to. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be there in person, but I'm really glad to join online. In regards to your question, well, we have been quite involved for many years now. Our organization initiated the End the Cage Age European Citizens Initiative, which many organizations joined, and we're very happy about this. The work started prior to 2018. And the ECI was launched, and then, of course, the work continues, because although we have had a successful and in terms of the signature collection process and also in terms of the Commission's commitment, still the work is not over, because we need to see this in law. And this will take quite a few years from now, actually, as Maya said. Ever since the revision process was announced, we have been lobbying the EU bodies for stronger laws for farmed animals. Here we are focusing mostly on the Commission at this stage, but also at the European Parliament and, of course, the Council of Ministers. Earlier in March of this year, we also organized a conference on the animal welfare laws and the animal welfare proposals, and it was accompanied by a photo exhibition by We Animals Media, and the conference focused on the revision of the animal welfare legislation, and there were speakers from basically political figures from the EU bodies, including Commissioner Kyriakides and several MEPs. And we are now focusing very much on the proposals as they are in the final stages. We're fighting to ensure that the Commission keeps its promises, especially in regards to the End the Cage Age European Citizens Initiative. And of course, after the proposals are finished, are published, and they are public, we will need to advocate for ambitious laws with the Parliament and the European Council. And so we have been sending letters and have had meetings, were active on social media, and have been communicating about the need to bring everyone together to push for the timely publication of the proposals, but also for quite ambitious content in the proposals. So basically, this is what we've been doing the last few months.
No, it's great to hear, and it's wonderful to have you on board. As an organization who does so much for the animals, for farm animals. And about the farmed animals, Maya, would you like to take over?
Yeah, thank you so much. Is this? Yeah, it is on. So yeah, building on what Olga said, of course, Eurogroup for Animals, as we are a lobbying organization that basically lobbies EU institutions, we've been on this for quite some years already. So we've started the No Animal Left Behind campaign some years ago, and right now we're in the second phase. So basically in the beginning, of course, we were making sure that this will happen, as in the revision would take place. And of course, thanks to the work of Compassion, all other amazing organizations here, we were able to get that commitment from the European Commission. And now, building on that, we're in the second phase of this campaign, which, as I mentioned during my presentation very briefly, is going to be based on getting the right European Parliament in, and also preparing the national ministers for the negotiations in the Council. So what that means is basically on the Vote for Animals campaign, we want to get, so basically people who are going to be voted in as MEPs need to have animal welfare commitments in their manifestos. So we're looking for these people, and our member organizations are doing this right now. If you want to learn more about this, please approach me later on, because there's way too much detail on that. And so that's for the European Parliament. Of course, for the MEPs who are staying, this is actually easier because we can already talk to them in the European Parliament and prepare them for what's coming. As I also mentioned during my presentation, we're entering a very scary time in terms of political stuff, and this is also going to be very clear in the European Parliament. So we will have a parliament that is way more right-wing, way less animal welfare friendly. And this is one of the reasons why we were trying to get this file through as soon as possible. We'd love to see the current parliament vote on this file. I'm not sure right now whether that's going to happen. Probably not, unfortunately. But yeah, of course, we were trying to get that happen. So right now we're looking at probably the next parliament voting on this. And yeah, it's a difficult time. But hey, you know, this is the work that we have to do. And apart from that, there's the council, as I mentioned. So on that, we have a huge program called Quantum Leap. And Hanna is actually one of the people employed under that program, and this is a program that we have in a few key EU member states. So basically the member states that have either a big production or they're strategic for some reason in the council. So one of these member states is, for example, Poland. And we have political advisors there who are advising our members in these states on how to lobby their national politicians, basically, because if we don't prepare them for what is coming, they will definitely fail. So we have to do that. And of course, our members are also doing amazing work on that. And that's what Maria also mentioned as well. So yeah, that's kind of what's happening, what's been happening, what's going to be happening in the next months and years. And yeah, baseline is we're hard at work, and this is not done yet. Sorry for saying the same thing all over again, but I need you to get the message.
No, we're very glad you did. And yeah, as Maya is saying, the national level, actually engaging on the national level is so important in terms of provision. And you know, with regards to what Olga said before, I would like to maybe come back for a minute for the, you know, one of our biggest goals in terms of revision, the ban of cages, something we all very much await. Olga, you have already covered. You have already covered some of the stuff most of the stuff you have been doing with regards to the End the Cage campaign. But I was wondering, what are the next steps in the campaign, and how can other organizations in the animal protection movement can actually get involved in your work around the End the Cage? Thank you.
Yes. Well, the work continues and will continue even after the laws are adopted, and even long after that, because they will still need to be enforced. As of now, we have a body in the European Commission called the Regulatory Scrutiny Board, which finally issued a positive opinion, a positive decision for the proposal, for the animal welfare proposals to proceed. But at this point, still nothing is certain. We need to continue to push against overly long transition periods. That will be a very sticky point because the other side, let's say, they want to cause as many delays as possible. Given the scientific knowledge that we have about the negative effects of cages on animals, we find it completely unacceptable that this practice should continue for another 10 or 15 or even 20 years. So this is what we are fighting against, and we need to make sure that the proposals have relatively short transition periods. We are still not. Also, I need to say that in regards to the proposal, we're still not there yet because there are a lot of internal negotiations taking place and different commissioners and different sides can express views and can, in a way, weaken the proposals. So we're hoping for the best, but we're not resting assured that this will happen. We just need to keep pushing. And then once, of course, the proposals reach the co-legislators, the Parliament and the Council, we will continue lobbying specifically those two bodies. Especially in the case of the Council, okay, with the Parliament, we have let's say a uniform body made up of representatives from all countries. But with the Council, we have many different countries, and a lot of the decisions that actually come to the Council, a lot of the issues that come to the Council are actually decided at member state level. That's why work at national level, like for example in Poland in this case, is very, very important. So we will continue to lobby those particular bodies in order for the proposals not to be weakened but strengthened. And there are many scenarios also floating around about the apparent impact of the cage ban on EU agriculture. And this is something that we have to deal with, and we need to debunk many myths that still prevail, because there is, as you can imagine, considerable pushback from the industry. Although food businesses and others have realized and accepted that cage farming cannot go on, still there are some strong, let's say, voices in the farming sector that want to delay this reform for as long as possible. So we plan to remobilize the network of over 170 organizations that supported the KJ GCI, and we plan to engage also with many other actors, for example, other organizations outside the animal advocacy world, in order to strengthen the call for the end to the use of cages and demonstrate that there is a broad base of support across the EU.
Yeah, sure, of course. And yeah, I think it's really, really important to remember that, after the proposal is out, it's only the beginning. Like it will be long, long years and an enormous opportunity that we really cannot miss. And thank you so much. And just as important as the issue of cages, of course, broiler chickens, which are a big, big topic, and the subjects of many of our campaigns.
Yeah. Can I just add one more thing on that before we move to the next question?
Yes, please,
okay?
sorry,
yeah, no worries.
Didn't see that.
Yeah, I was
you were hidden,
shy about waving.
Thorbjørn.
I just want to mention one thing that Maria mentioned, and actually Olga as well, regarding lobbying of the national ministers and politicians in general on national level. I can imagine that a lot of you are thinking, oh my God, but like my politicians are, like they're just not going to budge. Like they're never going to be animal welfare friendly. And like, I can imagine that that's very true for many of you guys. But the thing is that of course we can't turn someone to be suddenly an animal, welfare friendly person, but we can at least try to make them not block the legislation completely. And, this work is doable. It's happening in countries that are traditionally very anti-animals, for example, Poland or Romania. So yeah, it's happening, and, we just got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for this remark. Yeah, as from experience, I can totally agree. And just coming back to the broiler chickens very quickly, since recently we have this huge victory. Recently, the Danish government and key Danish political parties have agreed to phase out the state procurement of fast-growing chickens and vote to back a ban on the farming of fast-growing broilers at EU level. As a question to you, Toby, how has your work in Anima contributed to the success, and what are the next steps?
Yes, interesting. It's quite an interesting development, and it's kind of an example. I think a lot of people, when they think about lobby work, it's about, knocking on some office doors and talk to some politician, maybe buy them some wine if possible, and see if they will agree with your policies. But sometimes it can happen in other ways, and here it was more like a corporate campaign that had a spillover effect into the political area. I think sometimes I see politicians, and maybe some of you also do that, as some people that are also opportunistic, so they will look for places where they can go and do something that will be popular and that might also be meaningful at times. And here's one example of that. So in Denmark, we've been working on the broiler campaign, as many other countries have, and we have had some successes in the last few years. And the first time it actually got on the political agenda was in 2020, when one political party, they suggested a ban on fast-growing chickens in Denmark, and that was just after we had 8 or 9 companies going away from fast-growing chickens. That was including retailers like Lidl and Aldi, but also some other food businesses. And in the proposal, it was written in the first lines, like, after all these companies have done that, we think it might be time to do this. So it's like a very direct link about what is happening in the corporate world, but also just because we put a lot of emphasis on getting media involved, because if the media hadn't reported upon it, I mean, why would the politicians be interested in spending their time on this if they also want to get a little bit out of it from themselves? So that's that proposal didn't go through at that time, but it started this kind of discussion around an issue that hadn't been discussed at that level beforehand. And then recently, and it's a little bit of a complicated story that I won't get into, but the Minister of Animal Welfare wanted to do something, and he announced that. And it was like a broad thing, but the only thing they could agree on at this point in time was around broilers, where, as Hanna explained, the Danish government will work on a ban on fast-growing chickens on the EU level, also in regards to this revision thing, but also they will stop the purchasing, like the state is buying chicken for some, like universities and the military, wherever people are working for the state. So in the future, they will not buy fast-growing chickens. But this was not something that we were lobbying heavily for, because we didn't see this as a political campaign. It was like, of course, we mentioned it and we did like some things on it. But I mean, we have full confirmation from like the contacts that we have that if it hadn't been for this campaign, probably they wouldn't have been able to get this. Like, it was down to a few people, and it's often like that. There was a particular one, like member of the parliament who wanted to have this, but he could only do this because he had, you know, hundreds of media articles to point to and some change in society that we, in a large part, actually made possible. So I think this is interesting, and this is something we can all pay attention to when we do campaigning to see, okay, can this actually have a spillover effect to something else? And sometimes we might be a little bit blindsided to it. So maybe this is a good example to, you know, be aware of that thing. So I think that gives a bit of context.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and again, huge congratulations to the women in Denmark. And we can also kind of see here how intertwined the EU level and the national levels are. And on that note, Maria, if we could please maybe go back a bit to the campaign on the public pressure campaign on the Polish Minister of Agriculture that you have mentioned. Mm-hmm. And if you could please maybe elaborate a bit on that and also share your impressions. What have you learned and what are the next steps, basically? Thanks.
Yeah, very happily. I would just like to note that I think in Poland we would very appreciate having some of, you know, the Danish-minded politicians. So we would appreciate it, yeah. Okay, so as I said before, we focused on the Minister of Agriculture. And after several months of intensive campaigning, I think we can say now, of course, it's our judgment. We're not 100% sure, but it's way less probable that the Minister of Agriculture and the whole Ministry of Agriculture in Poland will oppose the ban. They are speaking publicly that the changes are inevitable. Of course, they are also speaking about long enough transition periods, so that's the problem here. Actually, in some expertise they said something about 15 years for laying hens, but of course we will keep on working on that. Yeah, but there are several things that we have accomplished in these months that I would like to share. First of all, we, together with Compassion World Farming, we collected 240,000 signatures under the petition to the minister, and we handed them to the Ministry of Agriculture. So that's one thing. The other thing, as Anima International Poland, we have also launched a mass media campaign, a public support campaign, which we believe might be one of the largest campaigns for farmed animals ever run in Poland. It was 2 videos, outdoor campaign, and mass media appearances with Polish celebrities, and we conducted public opinion polls before the campaign started and after, and we've seen the rise of public sentiments regarding cage farming ban. Of course, other things happened in this time, but like that's something that we can use to estimate how effective it was. We also published an investigation on pig farming, on sows in crates, but also pig farming in general. And here the interesting thing is that the Ministry of Agriculture actually reacted to the investigation. The reaction wasn't, the perfect reaction that we would want, but they basically instantly tweeted that they do not tolerate cruelty on farms and pathologies on farms. Unfortunately, they didn't say anything about keeping sows in cages. Yeah. But they commented on that. So they saw that and it influenced them somehow. Politically speaking, we have obtained support from 3 political parties. From one, it's like a strong support because one left-wing political party put the cage farming ban into their political elections program, and 2 big opposition party leaders, when we asked them questions publicly, they said, they gave us soft support. So they said that cage farming should be banned. But it's a soft support as for now. And when it comes to lessons learned, well, there's a lot of lessons, but what I'd like to share is, I think Toby was saying that it was good that politicians got interested in the topic, even though they were at the beginning of the process. When we're thinking about right now, when we're talking to politicians, when we see that their awareness of the EU animal welfare legislation is really low, we see that we could have started talking to them about cage farming ban before. I think we all had such a path in mind that we should start from raising awareness about a cage-free issue, then go talk to companies and get cage-free policies, and then start talking to politicians. While right now we think that we should have started talking to politicians before, and that all these areas should be more intertwined. So that's the lesson here. And also we've seen that the Polish politicians are really unwilling to talk about animal welfare. So that's the thing here. And another lessons, an interesting fact that you might want to talk about maybe later more about is the public support campaign that I mentioned. We commissioned it to an external marketing agency. That was first time we did something like that. And we see both advantages and disadvantages of such cooperation. But for sure, what we would do next time is to trust our intuitions and campaigning experience more and be more firm with expectations. Of course, the cooperation was really when we're concluding it, but yeah, we could have done some things better. And maybe there was also the part in the question about what we're planning to do and what are some next actions. So here, talking to politicians, there are upcoming parliamentary elections this fall in Poland. So we want to use that. We are asking politicians right now about whether they will support the cage farming ban, and we want to publish information about this. So that's the main thing that we'll be doing. We want to also try to keep educating the politicians and Ministry of Agriculture about the animal welfare revision. And some other things we're doing. There are some investigations coming up, and also from the smaller but yet we believe important things. We're also obtaining support from companies companies that are in cage-free process or already implemented their cage-free policy to publicly support the ban, and there are already 3 companies that supported the ban publicly. 2 you might know, Auchan and Carrefour. Carrefour actually was obtained by Compassionate World Farming, and we got Auchan. So that's the thing that we're doing, and yeah, that'd be that.
Yeah, great. That's very specific. Thank you. You know, I can confirm that Polish political landscape is not the easiest one, but makes it even more, you know, special for us to work here. And I'm so grateful, you know, to you and Otwarte Klatki and other member organizations that we have in Poland, and we're doing amazing work. And well, let's not forget about the EU level, of course. Maya was wondering, it's kind of a specific question, but I was wondering, how are you harnessing the power of corporate stakeholders in the revision of animal welfare legislation? Because this is something that really can be used as well.
Thank you for that. And this is a question for you guys to get inspired, because as I said before, Eurogroup for Animals, we're a lobbying organization, so basically we have no, you know, interest in doing anything with corporate stakeholders apart from using them for meetings with specific policymakers. And I would like to inspire you maybe to do a similar thing, because, you know, most of you guys do some work with corporate stakeholders. You have meetings with them, you have the contacts, and this is really kind of an area that you could, or the contacts that you could use in your national context. So to give an example of how we did it, of course, we operate on EU level, so we were mostly, so this example is mostly about the European Commission, but basically, very often policymakers, they don't really want to listen to, you know, to us animal welfare advocates, but they often want to listen to corporate people, to industry people, right? And some of these people, very few, but some of them, are actually the right people to get into a room with a policymaker, because some of them can be on our side sometimes on a very specific thing. So for example, I don't know, let's say on stocking density, if someone is a producer and is producing only in that stocking density or has an interest to, you know, go into that direction, they might be the right person to get into a room with a decision maker in your country. We did that with the European Commission, and it worked fabulously. So I would just like to inspire you to think about that, maybe think outside of the box. It doesn't always have to be only you in that meeting room. It could be you and someone who is way more impactful in terms of just like having the connection with a policymaker, just because policymakers will trust them more just because they're from the industry. Of course, again, this is, you know, really depending on your national context, but I kind of believe that it might work in most contexts. So if you have some of these friendly contacts, make use of them. And specifically, you know, when we were mentioning the negotiations at council level, that's when the member states will be super important. Yeah, just get them ready, you know, get them ready, get these industry people in the room with them before the negotiations happen, so they know what to say.
Yeah, sure, definitely do that. Please listen to Maya. It's, you know, she's one of our best lobbyists out there. Yeah, guys, thank you so much, because these are some really well, inspiring insights that we get from you here. And I would actually like to merge my next 2 questions into one, because we only have 10 minutes, so please let's be quite quick. And this is again a question to all of you. So I was wondering, what is the greatest challenge in your opinion for your work around the revision in the next 6 months? And again, will there be any important moments in your campaign in the coming months that you would like to highlight and ask others to join forces with you, because we're stronger together? So Toby, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure.
I can see you're picking up the mic.
I'm just picking it up because I'm next to you. Okay, so maybe the most important thing to say is that Anima International is taking the lead on a campaign with some help or some sparring advisory from Eurogroup for Animals, and it's Jan, who's sitting there in the green t-shirt, who will be leading it. So please talk to him, and there will also be more tomorrow about it. But basically, it's a runoff of what was being said about in the presentation with the consultation work a year and a half ago with 60,000 people voicing their opinion. This time we want to do the same with whatever comes from the Commission to have a review of that. It will be a little bit more difficult in a sense because this time it's not going to be that easy where you can just fill out some things. This time you have to write your own thing. And if people write the same thing 2 times, then it will be counted as a duplicate. So we have to engage 60, 70, 75,000 people in writing unique reviews. But I mean, a unique review could be go fucking do it or something like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be that unique. So I mean, there would be many ways to do it. I think, and that leads into some of the some challenges are without our like sphere boundaries, but I mean, it may be that they end up postponing the whole thing or water a lot of things down. And I mean, it's politics. It happens all the time. Hopefully not this time. But I mean, it's quite disappointing that not so much has happened from the EU in terms of animal welfare. But now it's actually our time to kind of push it to the test, because I think a lot of people also, like, if you hear Maja talk with like all this certainty about things, and you're like, okay, yeah, probably she knows how to do it, and I'll just steer out of this. And I think actually she wants the opposite to happen, that everyone is joining. And I think this is kind of a rare moment where, because I mean, how often does this happen? It's so rare. I mean, I'm one of the more skeptical people in this environment about, political change and stuff. But even I think that, okay, if for a few months' time we will have to get people to sign something, then, I mean, for one thing, we can push it to this process, but it can also be used on a national level where you can say, well, actually in our country, 5,000, 10,000 people did this, so you can also use it for national purposes. So it's kind of a win-win, but I think the biggest challenge is that people, they kind of fall asleep, and because if everyone is joining, what difference do I make? So I think this is something for everyone to discuss in their groups and say, okay, can we like put 5% or 8% of our campaigning powers for a period or whatever it takes to get enough? I think that's, I mean, if not now, then when? Because then we can see if they're actually going to do something or if it's just a lot of cheap talk. But if we don't do what we should do in this time, then it's a little bit easy to just say, well, yeah, it's that kind of bureaucratic organization that never do anything. But at least we try to do our best, right?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, as both Toby and Maja already explained, the consultation process will be this huge opportunity to actually get our voices heard. So please, let's don't miss it. Olga, would you like to take over, maybe?
Sure. Well, I would like to insert, let's say, another element here, which is basically the arguments coming from the other side. We see that ever since the Ukraine war started, we see the argument of food security being used against any progressive measure in EU agriculture. The war actually has become a scapegoat in order to keep the status quo. And in a way ignoring the fact that our food security is threatened by the status quo itself and not by progress that we desperately need. So for animal welfare, for the animal welfare legislation, there's also there's a pushback from vested interests who claim that higher standards of animal welfare will be to the detriment of EU farmers, and the market actually will be overflown with imported products, therefore threatening food security and food sovereignty in the Union. So we see this argument again and again, regardless of how many studies we produce and data that actually prove the contrary. So this argument persists, and there we have examples of how this argument has actually influenced the voting process in the European Parliament with the so-called nature restoration law recently. The greatest challenge actually is to keep the Green Deal and its core segment, its core part, the farm to fork strategy alive and thriving. Increasing the standards in animal welfare actually go hand in hand with the transformation of EU agriculture. So moving towards more sustainable forms of and changing our eating habits to decrease the consumption of animal products. So we need to somehow drive policymakers to that path. So it is vital to remember that the goals and of these strategies are alive, and we need to keep pushing for them to be reflected in concrete and tangible measures. We also have the EU elections coming in, let's say, I think, well, in about 10 months from now, in June of 24, and the candidates will start preparing. We have this, as we say, the right-wing trend, which is quite actually very worrying. It's a nationalist anti-EU trend across the EU, as we have seen in many countries, and we need to see how we're going to work around this. And from our side, we also need to, as I said before, revitalize the network of the European Citizens Initiative, of the End the Cage Age, with all these organizations coming together again to make sure that the Commission keeps its commitment, whether it's during this term, but also in the next term. So these are just some of the challenges and the next steps that we'll be taking.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, and thank you for highlighting the importance of working around the EU elections. Because the outcome of the election, of course, it will have an immense impact on the on co-legislating the revision. I mean the outcomes of the revisions as well. Maria, would you like to maybe add something?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I won't speak about anything from EU perspective, as we have experts here to talk about it. From Polish perspective, the greatest challenge would be reaching the Ministry of Agriculture and actually getting to talk with them about the transition, about what's needed to be done for it to go smoothly. And that's a big challenge, as they do not want to meet with us. We had one success when handing out the petition, the signatures. Where with Compassion World Farming, we've met with the representative of the Ministry of Agriculture, but unfortunately it wasn't any kind of an official meeting. We've got some information, but that we cannot really share, and that wasn't any great information from them. I think I can just say that they basically said that they are not doing anything until there is a legislative proposal on the table already published. So yeah, but we have some ideas and we'll try to get them to talk to us. We're thinking of first of all, organizing an open meeting with politicians from different parties, with the social side, with the agricultural side, so that we can talk about this issue some more. And we're also thinking about hiring an external lobbying agency, to see whether they know more things that we don't know, and whether they can help us improve the relations with politicians. So yeah, we'll try to reach the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yeah, let's really hope so, and that's what we're focusing on. And yeah, sorry for being very, very snap, but we're kind of short on time, so I'm just going to ask Maya to share her insights on the challenges, on the plans of Eurogroups as well.
Yeah, I mean, as we're very short on time, maybe I'm not going to be kind of repeating what a lot of people have said here, and Olga specifically, because, Olga, as we do as well, mostly operates at EU level. So yeah, you already know what my message is. Please participate in the public consultation. That is literally the most important thing that we're going to be up to in the next months, and also the biggest challenge, because if we don't get that going, and if we don't have a strong message from that, we're going to be in a very weak position afterwards in the next course of our work. So yeah, I would say that is my main message, basically, to keep it short.
Yeah, perfectly short, Maya. Thank you so much. And yeah, again, inviting you all very, very warmly to the meetup tomorrow. And yeah, if we can go very, very slightly to the questions from our dear attendees. We can start from the Do you want me to read the names?
Can I just jump in with one more thing?
Yes, please.
As I said, just to be clear, tomorrow, if you have any more like longer questions, I'm very happy to answer them tomorrow. Today, I was really like public consultation, but there's so much more happening. So if you're curious about like the details, please either approach me today or tomorrow, or just come to our meetup tomorrow. We're going to be talking about this in more detail.
Please do. Okay, so starting with the first question. I don't know. I think this is for all, but maybe there will be someone who wants to take it particularly badly. So, what EU countries do you expect to oppose the EU revision and the cage ban? Maybe. Yeah, Maya, would you like to
You're
address
looking
that?
at me. So yeah, I can start with my favorite country, which is my home country. Hello, Poland. Poland is going to be a huge roadblock, of course, but that's why we have you guys working full steam on this, and our other Polish members as well. We're really focusing on that. We also have Italy there in that fantastic group. We have Romania there. We have Spain. Portugal specifically on transport of animals is a tricky one. You know, there's quite a few very tough cookies in this area, you know. But we also have friends. Let's talk about them, you know. No, I'm joking, but we do actually. It's not too bad, you know. But yeah, so these are the tough countries. There's a few other ones as well. Basically, the most common theme is the countries with the biggest production, you know, are the ones who are the least happy about about the revision. And it makes sense. It's the most expensive for them. But that's why we're here to talk about this. And we as, you know, everyone here, you guys are here to talk about this with your national politicians to make sure that they understand that it's expensive, but it's up to them to make sure that, first of all, they get enough money at EU level to fund this transition, and also that they're ready for this. Because if they lose, if the farmers at your national level don't know that this is coming, this is when it's going to get tricky. Okay, so the farmers need to know that it's happening. Everyone has to at least know that it's happening, because what I experienced when I came here to Poland in March or something for a meeting on basically like a very technical. It was a technical meeting on how to transition from caged farming to non-caged farming in terms of laying hens. Super technical meeting. It was supposed to be, it was literally called best practices in cage-free laying and hen farming. The whole meeting was taken over by producers who were just like, you know what, cages are the best. We're not talking about anything else. And this is, of course, it's a problem. But what I wanted to show through this is they did not like imagine that this is going to happen, and they have to. And of course, they don't want to imagine, but they have to, because if they keep giving bad advice to producers in their respective countries, the producers are going to be surprised. You know, they're going to make bad business decisions. They're going to be investing in cages right now, when these cages are going to be illegal in a few years. You know, so everyone's going to lose. I'm literally talking about farmers losing, and I'm concerned. Okay, so. We need to get that message out, you know, one way or another. So yeah, I got trailed off by my own brain. Anyways, that's my point. Yeah.
I remember the remarks on Netflix and jacuzzi being provided for the hens in the cages. So yeah, that's unfortunately where we are. Is there anyone who'd like to add to it? B? Olga? Or was it the pass?
Yeah, just want to add that sometimes, I mean, in terms of countries, I think, basically ministers are politicians, and let's not forget how politicians behave. They, knowing that animal welfare is very important to the public, usually they don't say a clear no. So we are not going. I think we're not going to have, many negative, let's say, views. But the devil is in the details. So what they will probably do is they will ask for long transition periods. They will need to, they will ask for derogations. And I'm talking about the entire animal welfare legislation, not just cages, not just transport, but everything. So they will probably try to ask for periods of, let's say, transition periods of, decades long, and they will try to get derogations, which will basically mean that the basic legislation, the basic law is null because there will be so many derogations. They will, in a way, find a way to oppose by not opposing. So they will find a way to weaken the laws, either directly via the position of the member state or via the European Parliament, where, of course, members are elected at member state level, and a lot of times they represent vested interests at member state level.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. And yeah, definitely the devil's in the details, especially with regards to this legislation. I think that's it for this question. So please let's move on to the next one. What are the key changes in EU animal welfare law you would like to achieve? Anyone?
I don't want to go first. You guys talk from your national perspective. What do you
Yeah,
want to
please.
see? You know?
As much as possible.
We all do.
So a cage ban, a fast-growing broiler phase-out, better stocking density. What do you want, Maria?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Well, we in Poland we focused mainly on the cage farming ban, as that's what we been doing for some time. Like, I mean, the cage-free campaign, and we have resources for that. Also, I think we realized pretty late about like the other things in the EU animal welfare revision. We were focused on cages. And yeah, we're like looking at what can we do, but you know, there's also always the question of resources and on how many topics you can focus effectively at once. So the cage farming ban is our priority right now, but yeah, the other things that we said would be awesome.
I mean, I totally think it makes sense that you guys were focusing on cages. I think we all should be focusing on that because that is literally the key. So yeah, of course, that is the main priority. Apart from that, I mean, I'm very biased because I work on poultry. So I'm going to say, you know, getting, you know, higher welfare breeds is, of course, a priority. And that is like the main thing. Like when we're talking with the policymakers, we always explain that if we do not get the breeds in the legislation, you know, all the other stuff, it's like, I mean, it's great to have, but the breeds is the most important thing. As you guys all know, you know, so that is really the priority for poultry. And apart from that, of course, fish welfare. This is a huge change. You know, there's not really anything at this point, and there's a ton of stuff happening for fish right now. So I'm very excited to see some of that. What else? Water bath stunning. That would be great to see it banned. You know. So yeah, these are some things, and of course transport as well, which is a massive issue. It's also a very tough cookie in terms of changes because there's so much opposition from member states specifically. This is where the member states are really, you know, blocking everything that's happening. I'm looking at you, Portugal and Ireland, yeah. So we'll see what happens on that. But these are really kind of the priority areas. So to sum up, cages, guys, let's ban them.
Okay, Olga, would you like to add something?
Sure. Well, cages again,
Yeah.
But also an end to mutilations. I mean, we want to see so many things happening because substantive reform hasn't happened for many years, and in the meantime, the public has and the awareness around animal welfare has grown a lot over the last few years. So an end to mutilations. Of course, lower stocking densities. We want to see access for animals, access to the outside. We want to see an end to long transport, and to the live export trade of animals outside the EU. We want to see certain slaughter methods being banned, like water bath stunning and the use of CO2 for pigs, and of course we would like to have to see some sort of labeling system according to method of production, because that is missing. It's only applied towards eggs, but not towards other products. And of course, we want to see not just via the review of the animal welfare legislation, but via, let's say, the farm to fork strategy, and more broadly, a reduction in the production and consumption of animal products. This is very important. It goes hand in hand with welfare. We cannot have so many animals in the EU and worldwide. We need to drastically reduce the number of animals that who are farmed and the products that animals that people consume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely, and all of this. Yes, please, Maya.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on what Olga just said. I think that, bottom line here is that this is a massive opportunity to get so many things done. I don't want to say overnight, over years, but still, like, so many things done, kind of like in one huge move. And I don't, it's kind of unprecedented in terms of like the way that we work, right? Because most of us, like, when we focus on one thing, right? Or like a few things within like one campaign or like one kind of area of work. Whereas here we can just like get massive change for like so many species. And also one thing I forgot to mention is extra species specific provisions for species that are not protected right now. So for example, for turkeys. So yeah, bottom line is this is massive for a lot of species and for so many like different kind of tiny little things, which are not so tiny. But what I mean is it's a whole list of priorities that we have that we'd like to see change.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for adding that, Maya. Unfortunately, time is running up. Thank you so much for all the questions from the audience. I would like to warmly thank our wonderful, wonderful panelists for joining us for the panel, for sharing these super important, super inspiring thoughts and plans with us. And yeah, I join Maya in inviting all of you to the meetup tomorrow. Let's please keep fighting for the animals. Let's please seize this enormous opportunity that we have. And please, let's give a round of applause for all our panelists.